Bizarre Brain Comics. Hi, Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk about the characters and creators, and then kind of examine the stories and the art. And as you can hear from the spooky noises, that we are approaching Halloween season. It's not October yet. I don't want to do a little preview here in a fun way. This time I want to take a look at this right here. Josie and the Pussycats, number 72 from 1973. And you say, Josie and the Pussycats? Why does it require spooky sounds for Josie and the Pussycats? Oh, because this isn't your normal Josie and the Pussycat story. Because I want to look at a story. The story that I want to look at today is Vengeance from the Crypt. So, we'll see what the big book of knowledge has to say. Oh, heck. I forgot something on the previous video. That's not the one I wanted to do this time. There we go. This is from Archie Comics. Josie and the Pussycats, number 72. From 1973, from Archie Comics. Okay. The initially, this title was just She's Josie. And then it later changed to just Josie. And it's a teen humor comic from Archie Comics, existing in the main Archie universe. And the Pussycats are a rock and roll band. They were created by Dan DeCarlo. It was regularly published from 1963 to 82. And thereafter there have been occasional one-shot issues and miniseries. And in 1970, Hanna-Barbera produced an animated series. And then, of course, there was a live-action movie produced in 2001, which didn't do very good. Had some good tunes on it, though. And I enjoyed it. It's not spectacular, but it was enjoyable. And even had a few references to the comic itself. For example, like there's one scene, because it's Josie and the Pussycats. It's the three girls in the band, and then their manager, their friends and manager, Alexander Cabot the Third, and his sister Alexandra. And Alexandra's usually in the way. She's just a hanger-on, and she's always wanting to get in the group. But in the movie, they had one spot where they're on a plane and they're flying, and the girls are on the plane, and Alexander looked over at his sister and says, "Why are you here?" And she said, "It's because I'm in the comic book." And then he goes, "What?" She said, "Nothing." And I think they have a couple other little references to the comic book. And of course, it's teen humor. It's mostly just teens, young adults involved in dating, wanting to date, someone trying to get their boyfriend, someone trying to get their girlfriend, and since this is about a group, there are also stories revolving around them having to go someplace to play a gig and something happens, whatever. And that's about it for Josie and the Pussycats. No. Yeah, here it is. Okay, this issue. It was written by Frank Doyle, if my information was correct, because I had difficulty finding credits for these people, for this story. Written by Frank Doyle with pencils by Stan Goldberg and inks by John D'Agostino. So, let's go take a look. Have some fun with Josie and the Pussycats. Vengeance from the Crypt. There you go. You see the cover, better view of the cover. That's probably Stan Goldberg doing the cover. And now one of the there's some unusual stuff about this. Of course, this story, because it's totally out of character for these kinds of comics. Here it says Josie and the Pussycats, and has Valerie saying, "Josie, what's wrong with Josie?" Melody says, "What's she going to do?" Her eyes. Look at her eyes. Josie becomes a messenger of evil, a spine-tingling tale we call Vengeance from the Crypt. And there's some history to this. See, in 1971, the Comics Code Authority, let's see the code right there, the stamp right there. Yeah, you can see the Comics Code stamp right there. And the Comics Code Authority kind of loosened up their restrictions on horror and supernatural elements in comics, which allowed stuff like the Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf by Night, zombies, Frankenstein's monster, and stuff like that. And that was jumped on real quickly by Marvel Comics, but they weren't alone. Other publishers did this same thing. Of course, DC made their mystery titles spookier, and it didn't really have any effect on like the Gold Key mystery titles, because they were already on the spooky side without being too, and had some strong supernatural elements. Of course, they didn't have weren't restricted by the Comics Code, and they were never too bad in the first place. So anyway, and this led to Josie number 72, which dealt with demonic possession, which may have been inspired by the popularity of the Exorcist movie. Who can say? I couldn't find any more on that. So here we go. Josie and the Pussycats. Vengeance from the Crypt. And here's how the girls look, if you can see there. It's very small. And their get-ups for the band. And Valerie is the one who is basically telling this story. Says the forces of evil sleep like deadly gases from the dank. Oh, I should do that in her voice. Nah, I'm not going to bother. Rotting timbers of an ancient casket deep in the innocent heart of our good friend. They flow. And Josie becomes the devil's advocate, a screaming, hate-ridden banshee, a monstrous messenger bent on delivering vengeance from the crypt. Oh! Okay, and then this is basically a recreation of this splash page. Basically a recreation of the cover. Slightly different, but it's even the dialogue's the same. Okay, now the girls are at the cemetery at the Cabot family mausoleum. They're going in with Alexandra because she wants to leave. Her grandfather had passed away about a month or so before, and she's taking flowers to put on his coffin. They creep in. She's really glad that the girls are with her because they said this place always creeps me out. But it's just a month since dear Granddaddy was laid to rest. Oh, the flowers are a nice gesture of respect. And then the girls are looking around, and it's all cobwebby, and there's all these coffins in all these rooms because it goes back generations. And they're looking around and I miss you, Grandpa. Meanwhile, and of course Melody, she's always kind of dopey, and she talks in that sing-songy voice. Yeah. Golly, Josie has found a lower level. I can't do her sing-songy voice. And Josie's down here goes into an older, different spot. And there it waited, an invisible, malignant presence. Its unseen arms enveloped the unwary girl like a shroud. It looks like gas to me, but... Josie, come up out of there. We're leaving. But the Josie that came up was not the Josie that went down. The eyes. It was all there in the eyes. Okay, and the girls leave. And, but Josie's, she's cackling and wheezing. And Melody cheers up Alexandra by just talking about clowns, laughter, vacation, parties, all that stuff. Then a little bit later, they're at the up at the Cabot house, and the girls are swimming in the pool. And Josie, once she thinks she's unobserved, she goes into the house by herself. And Valerie's a little suspicious because she notices that Josie doesn't look quite right. And she gets in there, and Josie's setting the drapes on fire. No. And the girls, everyone rushes in to grab Josie, and they manage to put out the fire before it gets too far. She just gets wild, fighting them back. She says, Josie, what's wrong? How can I help you? And Josie just attacks Melody. Oh my gosh! And she goes for her face, and Alexander manages to pull Josie off of her. So what's going on? What is going on? And she's fighting, and she's got like superhuman strength. Valerie says, hang on to her. That's not our Josie. She's possessed. Don't know what really brought that on, but yeah. But her strength was not of this world, and she tore loose screeching maledictions that purpled the very atmosphere. It means she was cussing up a storm. And she breaks free. Hate! Kill! Revenge! And starts crashing stuff, besting stuff up all around the Cabot house. And finally, Alex tackles her, brings her down. And while Josie's struggling, she reaches up to grab something, and it just happens to be a Bible. She grabs the Bible. Ah! She screams and throws the book away. Then, while she's still being subdued, the Bible, she can't stand the Bible. She's really possessed by something devilish. Hold her! And they hold her on the ground and put the Bible on her, and she just screams and struggles even more until suddenly she went limp. We can let her up now. And Valerie, because she's the brainy one of the bunch, says, no, keep her hand on the Bible. We've got to be sure we drive every bit of that vileness from her. And then a stench like sulfur permeates the place as it leaves Josie's body. Oh, and there she is laying there exhausted. And the Cabot father comes in. What the heck is going on here? they talk about Josie's been acting strange since they come from the mausoleum. She said, the lower level of the mausoleum? That would have to be Great Aunt Julia. She lived and died a hate-filled, vindictive old maid, threatening to the very end vengeance and destruction. An evil woman took her hatred out with her. Oh, so they talk about, and they go back. They all get dressed, and they go back into the mausoleum, and Alexandra holds the book in front of her till they get to the very coffin, and all the spooky stuff. The spirit re-enters the coffin, and eventually then the coffin disintegrates into dust, and Aunt Julia's coffin crumbled to dust, gone, completely gone. And then they're back at her grandfather's coffin. And they're thankful, it says here. It took time, but time is a great healer. And our Josie healed without scars, and even the Cabot Crypt held no terrors, for it became just a resting place for those who had gone ahead. No more, no less. Rip. R.I.P. And that's the end of Vengeance from the Crypt. And see, that is entirely out of character if you've ever read Josie. They do occasionally have kind of a spooky story, but nothing to this extent. Of course, the rest of it just some nice pinups. And regular wedding bell, regular teen humor stories after that. And that's it for that story. Now, it is unusual. It's that that powerful a story, and since it had such strong religious overtones, that could almost have been a story in the Spire comics, which use Archie characters in Spire comics. But it wasn't. It was in the mainstream. I enjoy the story, even with the overt religious overtones. But hey, it happens with demon possession, and it's usually Catholic. But I hope you enjoyed this little spooky venture into Josie and the Pussycats. Josie and the Pussycats. Da, 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 da. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. And remember, comics are art.